What's up, people? In the wake of the latest coups that have occurred in Africa, mostly West Africa, the EU plans to invade West Africa to fight what its officials call terrorism. I'm Chibuzo Wanchuku. I'd appreciate you liking this video and subscribing to my channel. While France is seeking to maintain its presence in Niger, the EU plans to come to West Africa to terminate what the officials call instability. I roll the clips now.
The revolution in West Africa has Europe terrified, and now they threaten to put boots on the ground, claiming they're coming to fight terrorism.
And while France is scrambling to maintain its presence in coup-shaken Niger, its bigger brother, the EU, is reportedly moving to increase its influence in West Africa. Member states are said to have agreed to begin a mission in the Gulf of Guinea this autumn, citing terrorism operations in a need to strengthen security. Well, the operation will reportedly span Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Ivory Coast, with police and soldiers deployed to the countries aiming, quote, to prevent instability triggered by jihadists. Previous similar operations in Niger, Mali, and Somalia failed to yield fruitful results, with international troops ordered to leave after years of peacekeeping operations. And locals in Togo say, based on past experience, the deployment of EU troops is less than welcome.
Terrorists committed crimes when they were in these countries. We don't want them here.
We need security in the country, but we think the situation gets worse if these troops come to us. We are also vulnerable, and that could create more tension. Their presence will attract more attention to our country, and it will weaken the situation.
We got reaction to the EU's plans for some kind of new civilian military mission in West Africa. We got reaction from some guests.
Certainly, there is no Pan-Africanist worth the assault who will be delighted by the news of the European Union wanting to establish a mission within Africa, particularly in the Gulf of Guinea zone. We are troubled by the events that Europe thinks that they have what it takes to control and to bring about peace in Africa. The history of Africa and Europe is not that of a symbiotic relationship. It is that of a parasitic relationship, where Europe is the parasite that takes much away from Africa. And for anything and everything that Europe has done and continue to do, it's only to further European interests and to bring about the impoverishment of the African people.
From what the two Togolese men said, the instability occurs only when EU or any of the Western countries makes its presence. If the West or EU has nothing to do with the security issues, why then would they happen when the foreign presence is there? Of course, the West is responsible for the terrorism. As the Ghanaian politician Bernard Morna pointed out, the relationship between Europe and Africa is nothing like a symbiotic relationship. It is a parasitic relationship. Those countries exploit Africa. African countries are supposed to be rich. So why aren't they rich? Those European countries and USA and Canada exploit the countries of the continent through the aid of the leaders known as puppets. They then pay the African countries with humanitarian aid. The puppets and their respective officials, the officials of their respective administrations, benefit from the money. They are paid the money for aiding in the exploitation. That explains the situation in such countries. the puppets, the terrorists, and that so-called democracy brought to African countries by the West are agents of exploitation. What are the EU and the West so bothered about? It is the prosperity of the African countries. That is what they refer to as terrorism or instability. It's not that the Western countries don't have their own resources. They are disturbed about African countries developing. They are bothered about African countries getting rich. They're upset about countries such as China and Russia helping them. They prefer that African countries are poor. This is white supremacy, like practiced in the USA, where a number of whites that are racist, not all whites, but a number of them, sabotage businesses owned by blacks. They sabotage blacks economically. They don't want blacks to prosper. The West African countries need to watch out. They need to be ready to defend themselves. They should not allow the West to step into their countries. They need to resist the EU and to get rid of France. The West should not be allowed to be in Africa. All the military bases from Western countries, the US, Canada, France, Germany, or whatever Western country, need to be removed. The troops need to be thrown out. Diplomatic ties between African countries and countries from the West that exploit them need to be severed. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.